Hello, everyone. Welcome back. 2022 is over, and it's been a hell of a year for hip hop. It's been just a fantastic year. Lots of storylines, lots of events, lots of great music. And to do me the favor, my guy, Spike Lou, one half of the On Deck TV podcast, is returning to break down what has been, and like I said, it's just an absolutely incredible year. Spike, how you doing?
It is an honor, my brother. I appreciate you having me on this late in the year to recap, go over everything, have great discussion about. So I'm excited, man. My list may differ a little bit from the on deck list. So
And that's
hey,
what I was going to start
this
this with
thing's
is I was
changed.
going to start this with I am a fan of the podcast. You know that clearly. However, the blessing
Right.
the blessing is that I haven't gotten to listen, so I have no clue if this is what this list is going to be that you got. I have no clue, where anything is going. I have no sense, no gauge of it because although you are my guy and I support everything you do, I actually haven't been able to catch up on the On Deck TV podcast, and I specifically did that to avoid, to create the element of surprise here. I want to
Yeah,
create the
yeah.
element of surprise because I know you and I differ on a lot of things. We agree on a lot, but we differ on a lot. So I got some stuff I know up my sleeve that are gonna shock you. That actually shocked myself when I was going over my notes and tinkering my list as I do relentlessly. I know I have some stuff in here that's going to shock you, but I'm expecting some big things from you. I want to start with I
Okay.
want to start with the top five
See if I can
verses
live
of the
up to
year.
it.
This one I had a lot of
Okay.
trouble with. This was probably the hardest list for me to come up with, just because, like, what quantifies a verse? Because there are those songs that you know is just no hook and it's just rapping. Like an excellent song that I wanted to put on here, but it wasn't really a verse. Is my UK guy Dave? Shout out to Dave. Uh he is an incredible rapper, and he dropped a song on my 24th birthday, and it was just like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes of just rapping. And so it was like great, but I'm like, I can't really compare that to like a 50 second 16. Like that's just kind of not fair. And so, it's just, and some
Hmm.
songs are broken up where there's not even a hook. There's just a quick bridge and then back to more rapping, or a rap and then a hook, and it all flows together. So it was very challenging to make this list because I wanted to kind of balance it out. And this is kind of to give you the mind state of where I was at with it, was that I wanted to value time and efficiency with these verses as well, because there's awesome verses where if you rap your ass off for 4 minutes, you better have a minute of quotables, like you better. But in reality, if you have
Yeah.
50 seconds and 35 of it as quotables, then that kind of weighs more in my book. So I want to start it off with your thoughts before I get to mine. Do you got any honorable mentions you want to get to, or you want to just get right to your top five?
I narrowed it down pretty good. Honorable mentions, maybe on some of the songs. Spoiler alert that I did have. The Rick Ross verse on God Did and the Lil Wayne verse. I think both were exceptional, but did not make my list. But they are honorable mentions for me for this year. The J. Cole verse on Johnny P's Caddy
Okay.
definitely deserved mention. And the rest, I feel strongly about my five. It's interesting though, the difference in generations. I always pointed out when I come on here that you were talking about the shorter verses and you're getting to 35 seconds. And I think that my generation is just so used to a standard 16 quotables within that 16 and try to judge it based off that. So a lot of the shorter stuff I find doesn't hit with my generation when I'm asking them about music or things like that. So it's interesting that you say that you would rather have a shorter, more potent verse versus a traditional verse. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it just goes in line with everything my generation. My generation is also the one that changed
Yeah.
songs from 5 minutes to 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
2
So,
minutes. All
there
right.
there has always been that, that quick consumption, fast food, if you will. But and I do have some longer verses on here. I do have some that are not 16s. I just felt like in fairness to them, like if I really break them down bar for bar, like there are going to be songs in here that we'll mention that I know will be on your list that might not be on my list, or maybe they're on my list and they're not on your list, where they're great verses, but you're waiting for that like 10-second part of the verse, or you're waiting for like that's your
Mm-hmm.
favorite part. That's the part that when you're listening to it, you're imagining like showing other people. You're imagining like watching other people freak out to this rhyme scheme the way you did, or this bar the way you did. And so that's kind of how I picture it often too. And at the end of the day, a shorter verse, if it has just as many of those or around the same percentage, then I think I have to value it. I have to value it slightly more. Although there are some amazing, like I said, the 24th birthday with Dave. That's 3.5 minutes. I'm glued in all the way. Love that song. I just feel like that's unfair to measure it as a verse. I almost wanted to change this to
Mm-hmm.
top 5 rap performances of the year. Just to kind of like,
Pull a Grammys move.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's exactly why I didn't, because I felt like it was two Grammys. It was two Grammys, and that's not what I'm about here on this podcast. And you know that. So, um,
No,
great honorable
it would have
mentions.
surprised me actually.
Great honorable mentions you have, by the way. I'll give some of mine. So I have my laptop here. Let me pull it a little bit closer. I'm getting a little older. My birthday was last week. I'm starting to need some glasses or something.
You need the glasses now. You got to get the reading
Yeah.
glasses.
Hey man, I'm
That's
almost
hilarious.
there. So before I say the one that's gonna shock you, Crack Sandwich, the last verse of JID's song, incredible. JID had another one on here, the last verse of Radar, which is the second track on the album. I wanted to also shout out J. Cole's impersonation of the UK on London. I thought that was actually a very, very well done verse. I thought he killed that. And then one that I thought for sure was going to be on my list is Churchill Downs Drake's verse, because I loved that verse. Drake absolutely snapped on that. And I even just the more like flavor that he put into it with the spitting on the camera and all that. I spin your faces the too, like that's something that Drake doesn't do stuff,
Yeah.
animated stuff like that when he raps. He just kind of sits back and he's the coolest guy when he's rapping. Shout out to Beth is looking at me all confused. But um but Few Good Things by Black Thought, also I wanted to mention that as well. Black Thought's verse, which is a feature on Saba's album, that was great. And the last one that's an honorable mention that did not make my top 5, Spike Lee. Jay-Z's God Did. It was right there at number 6.
Jesus,
Right there.
you must have some
Just outside of my
amazing
list.
verses, man.
Listen,
You
that
gotta have
verse,
some amazing verses.
we had this discussion before, and I even came around on it. And I thought for sure I was going to land on this being my best verse. And then I kept going back through the verses, and I actually made a playlist, and I kept listening to them. It was like 25 songs, and I was just listening to each verse over and over again and trying to figure out which ones. And with the Jay-Z one, that's what I spoke about earlier. There's like 5 or 10 moments in there that are great, that I love, that like I'm waiting for. But then there's like the 30 seconds in between. I'm waiting for that moment to happen. And not to say that those are filler or those are weak. It's an excellent verse. And I have no problem with it being anybody's top 5 verse or even top verse of the year. I think it's definitely in that caliber. It just missed it because when I listen back to it, I love it, but I find myself waiting for certain moments rather than just loving the whole entire thing. If that makes sense. And that's why I just missed my list.
Interesting. I can't wait to see what your other 5 verses are if that Jay-Z verse didn't make it.
All right, how you want to do this? You want
I
to go
can't
one
wait to
for
see
one,
that.
or you want to just list my 5 and your 5?
This your stage, baby. It's your platform. I love to follow your lead. I'm dancing with you on the dance
All
floor.
right, all right.
So you
Let's
tell
just
me.
do our top 5. So I'll go with my
Okay. And
5
mine
here.
aren't ranked.
What's that?
I don't have like a 1 through 5. These are just my 5 favorite of the year. Like I don't
That's
have
fair.
this is
Um,
my favorite verse.
I'm
Okay.
a psychopath, and I spent weeks tinkering these
You rank
lists,
choice.
and number three could have easily been number seven, and number seven was number one at one point, and I mean, I had Churchill Downs at 12 right now, and that was probably a top three verse for me at one point. So I tried to number it,
12.
but ultimately you're gonna be splitting hairs with these. So
Shit.
my top five are as follows. I have Miss
Okay.
Mural off the Lupe album, the second verse. I thought that was fantastic. That's another long one, but very good. I thought it held my attention the whole way. Just so you remember, the first verse off Pusha T's song. Love that verse. That verse, the way he gets into it, the all the bars, the millionaires were made out of middlemen, and then the way he just grinds his teeth just so you remember who you're dealing with. Like he killed that
Mm-hmm.
verse. That was just awesome. Stars, Yasin Bey off the JID album. My boy Mos Def just came through and absolutely smacked on that beat. That was a crazy verse. Absolutely loved it. I couldn't even begin to quote it. I've listened to it 100 times, but you still can't even comprehend everything he's saying in it. And it's smooth. It's a great boom bap beat, and he absolutely wrote it. And then my number two, and this was often number one, but ended up being number two, is Kendrick's last verse in Mother I Sober. I just felt like the way he built up
Ooh.
that whole song and got to that last verse where he tied everything in, not just the whole album, but like everything. Everything from that song to just his whole entire, I mean, literally summed up generations of trauma all into one verse. The way he built it, got more animated. Just the perspective that he had, was just incredible. I mean, this is the reason why Kendrick is able to be so successful commercially as a very introspective rapper, is because he thinks about these things the way other people don't. A lot of rappers would have just stated all of these sad and unfortunate things that happened to them, and while that can relate to a lot of people, or people can appreciate that, nobody has the nuanced thoughts like Kendrick, the way he's able to really dive into it's because my mother accused me of this because she went through this that I'm now dealing with these problems that I have here. Just the ultimate self-awareness and introspection I thought was just masterfully done, and Kendrick is one of the best storytellers of all time in rap. So if you allow Kendrick to tell a story, I mean, it's going to be a great song. So that was my number two, and it went back and forth with my number one. But ultimately, I landed on my number one being J. Cole's feature on Johnny P's Caddy. Again, just every single line is quotable. The way he starts it, with the thunder was pouring, the rain was pouring, the thunder was storming, a legend was born. Like it made it sound so mythical. Like J. Cole like built
It was a
himself up to be a
performance.
god. And Kendrick often plays into that god complex. J. Cole doesn't too much, but on that verse, he did it and he smoked it. He had my favorite bars of the year and talking about really no MCs equal, relating to Einstein. Dude, he had just every single verse. This man said he's gonna go to hell if Jesus asks for a feature. You talking about body and Jesus? Come on, man. That's crazy.
That Johnny P's caddy was insane.
Nuts.
Big my guy Big Jeff, who from Fourth Sports Press, shout out to those guys. He actually thinks that Benny had a better verse. He
Crazy.
says J. Cole starts rapping about thunder and lightning and lion and bears, and it gets the people going. But that's incorrect. I agree with you. That was J. Cole's performance on that was insane. And I do one of the reasons that I like that verse so much is because of what you said. It was one of the few moments that he like leaned into it. He leaned into like, I am here to completely like obliterate you, Benny. Sorry, this is your track. I apologize. You finna get on here and rap your little drug raps, but hey, this is this precedes that, and like he just owned that track. I still go back and listen to it. However, it did make my top 5. I was look Before I go into my list, though, I do want to know, because it'll lead to my list. What do you look for in a top five? Is it something that you can relate to as far as the verse? Is it just, oh, I was so impressed by the rapping, formatting, and skills? Or is it how many times you were like, oh shit, from the metaphors? What is it specifically for you that makes like a hell of a verse? I know you went a little bit into it at the beginning, but what made you like pick these five? What were some of the things?
You know, I'm looking at my list now, and I can honestly say that it sounds like a cop out answer, but it really is a culmination of everything. Just like it's the argument I have all the time when I'm talking, the top 5 NBA players of all time. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going just off points, Kareem's number one, but no championships. Okay, so Bill Russell's one. Like you have to weigh all these factors, and there's really no set like equation to it. There's no set equation to it where it's like, okay, I can break it down to where this means this much, this means that much, this means more than that. There's a lot of things that tie into it. Like you said, relatability, just technical ability. I've watched I'm blanking on his page. I want to give him credit. I believe it's Rhyme Fest or something along those lines. I know Rhyme Fest was a festival at one point, maybe still is, but it's an Instagram page, and he does the breakdowns of like the genius breakdowns where it deconstructs and it shows all the syllables and how each one rhymes, and he does it very, very well. So I want to Rhyme Central, I believe, is what it is. So shout out to that page. So like there's that part of it that I appreciate, the technical part of it. There's the part of it that when I'm listening to it, do I just want to show somebody? Does this just get me passionate enough to be like, look, I don't care if you even like rap. Like, I got to show you this because this is cool because of this, either because of this awesome, clever bar that I love, or because it was just so relatable, or wow, because it was so in Kendrick's, situation, deep and introspective, and thought provoking. Like, what is it that really grabs me and makes me want to just show everybody this verse or this moment or this song? So that's kind of what narrowed it down for me. It was really just a culmination of a whole bunch of things, and then I had to sit there and relate off feeling. And because it's not a scientific equation, like I said, I told you this list jumbled around a lot, and there was a lot of songs that were in the top 5 that weren't in the top 5. That could be in the top 5 by the time this is uploaded. Like, I tried to really, I feel pretty solid with my 5, but I tried to balance everything, because ultimately at the end of the day, music is always going to be tied so much to emotion. It's so subjective. So like, there's days when I throw on my hoodie. Like when it gets cold out here in Michigan, Spike, Siri bugging
Siri didn't understand it.
Siri didn't understand it. Let me break this down for you, Siri.
She didn't understand.
So when it's cold outside, throw on Tupac, throw on Dave East, throw on some New York hip hop, just throw my hood up, and just walk. But when it's the summertime, give me something to vibe to. Give me something I can imagine playing around some good company, some beautiful company. Some smooth, some player.
Yeah,
I like that. So it all depends. Music is so subjective. I that's my best way of answering that question.
it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. Like fitting things and fitting times. For me, mostly it's relatability. I sometimes find that some of the verses that I find are just like amazing, and then I go to share them with somebody, like you said, and they're like, "Oh, okay." Because most of the time it's not like technical rap based. Did you hear this bar? For me, I know when I'm determining the verses, like it's like what can I relate to? How real does this sound from this artist? Is this what I expect? Things of that nature. And with that being said, without further delay, here's my top 5. I had Jay-Z's God Did, as we talked about. For me, that one, what sticks out to me the most there is being able to say stuff that other rappers just can't say. And when you say, hey, how many billionaires come off my tree? And you can name Kanye and you can name Rihanna, no one else can say that. That goes a long way for me.
Yeah.
As far as just being able to just to flex in that manner. I love
Dude
the
can flex
like how braggadocious that it is. Yeah, like no one can do that. That's what I love about the verse. Like only Jay can give you that verse. No one else can think of the stuff that way or even frame it that way because they don't have the moxie that he has. They don't have the credibility that he has. They haven't accomplished half the things that he has. So that goes a long way in that being the verse for me when he's just reeling off the accomplishments and just talking about the status that he has. That still does it for me when we're talking about Jay-Z. Next was Jeezy, the realist on ESTG feature from ESTG's album. This verse, I thought Jeezy took it back. There was a long time that Jeezy was out here and it felt like that he was just going through the motions. I felt like he heard some of the rumblings on this verse and wanted to remind people, hey, it's Snowman, I can still do this. I mentioned what great verses were to me. A lot of it is relatability. This verse reminded me of that TM 101 Jeezy. It
Yes, it
reminded
did.
me of when it still sounded gritty and he was still the Snowman and the ad libs were still popping and he was Donald Trump in a white
Phew.
tee and white ones. Yeah, this verse brought all of
Yeah.
that back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know.
So that's why I like the realest verse. Another slept on verse. I love the slow soul down soul samples, and I think one of the best people at rapping over them. We don't get to hear a lot from him. We didn't get to hear a lot this year. We got an EP with Sahai. Sahai had the EP that came out. Tears was the song
Yes.
on there he
Tears
had with
is
Jacquees.
incredible, man. Thank you for bringing
Oh
that
my
up. That is
God.
an
Listen,
awesome
man.
song.
Absolutely. And that's
Ripped it.
that's Sahai's bag.
Yeah.
Ripped it exactly. Second verse, especially, I loved it. He just goes through everything on there from a Sahai perspective. It reminds me of the Closer song from No Dope on Sundays. Thing I love about Sahai, even though, in my opinion, he's like a rapidy rap guy, he still adds the soul and the flavor, and you can still feel where he come from, even though it's high level rap. It's still
Yeah.
relatable enough for the people who are like doing street stuff, like the No Dope on Sundays, the whole thing. Even though he's like a bar for bar rapper, he can still relate with those guys, and that's great to me. That's why I love Tears. This one I know is going to completely take you off. You probably, I don't even know if you've heard of this guy, but you're well
Let's see.
versed in rap. So, I mean, I know you've heard of him, but you probably didn't expect it to land on anyone's top 5 verses list of the year. The album actually just came out. I've had this song on repeat for about 2 days. And it's Sauce Walker, and the song is called Peace Trees. Amazing. If you haven't heard this last project that he put out, are you
I
familiar with
haven't
Sauce?
yet.
Okay, Sauce Walker is from Houston. A pretty radical character.
I know
Picks
Sauce
great
Walker.
beats though. You
I
know
know
who he
Sauce
is.
Walker,
Okay.
yeah, but I just haven't. But for the listeners, go ahead and
Gotcha.
divulge and give some background.
Yeah, he's a Houston rapper. He's outspoken to say the least. Has a great background. I love the beats that he picks. If you can ignore the internet persona and some of the IG stuff that you've seen, he actually has a great message in most of his music. It's about accomplishing goals and just being a stand-up person. A lot of mess in it as well. Like I said, if you're looking at the IG and the social media stuff, but the music is actually has meaning. And the song is called again Peace Treaty. Sauce Walker. It's Ghetto Gospel 3 is the album that is on. It just dropped, I think, last week or the week before. So it's fairly new, but I've been listening to this song a lot lately. And last for me, I had to have a Pusha T verse just like you, and mine was Open Air. Oh my God, just him going like just the performance throughout the year, not
Yeah.
even just this verse, but the album. I was blessed enough to be able to go to the performance when he was. I seen him on tour doing what's the name of the album? Almost Dry.
Yeah.
And man, he is the personification of what a professional rapper is. I know you said you haven't gotten to listen to On Deck in a while, but I talked about this a little bit after I went to a show. But it was so, as an older hip hop fan, it was so professional, so well done. Like there was no extra talk between the sets. He wasn't there to get to know you and play around. Like he came out as soon as he hit the stage, boom, a hit, going back to back, giving you the album exactly what he came for, did a curtain call, came back out, goes over the hits again, and he's out. Like, it was so professional, so well done. There was not a lot of fat to trim. He wasn't like carrying on and just going back and forth with the crowd. He know what you came for, and I appreciated that. Like I said, as an older hip hop fan, show started on time, ended on time. It was great. So that may have swayed my opinion a little bit with this album throughout the year, but Pusha T's performance on this verse in that concert on that album, MVP for me.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad you brought that up about Pusha, because that does not surprise me at all. I've not gotten the luxury of seeing him yet in person, but he is one of those artists that everything he does, even the way he raps, precision.
So
Just
professional.
always precision.
Yes.
Always precision, always professional.
It was so amazing, like, to that point of precision and professional. What he did, like, throughout the concert, he didn't talk, he wasn't doing the back and forth. And when it ended the first time, and I went over this on the show, you may have missed it, he just like dropped the mic. All right, Atlanta, I'm out. And you're like, well, damn, that was abrupt. That was quick. DJ says, oh, I hope you didn't think that he was done. After it's the almost dry set, comes back out and gives you all the features, all the smashes, all the say hello to the asshole, like all of those.
Oh my God.
And then, all right, for real, this time, Atlanta, I'm out. Thank you, appreciate it. Leaves. 3 minutes go by, people almost start to walk out. DJ comes back. Oh, I hope you didn't think it was good. Then he goes into the other bag of older hits, the clips, the grinding, like the beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy, whatever that Kanye presents when he had that Posse album and all of those. He comes and he does all of those, and then he leaves again.
Dude,
it was the way that you would want to see a concert done and him perform, bro. It was great.
Dude,
so yeah, it went a long way.
That blows my mind, because now I'm thinking of all of the opportunities he has. Like, he can jump into so many.
He did that 3 times
off those features and everything that he's done. Like we often talk about the verses thing. It's like Pusha's slept on, because, like, okay, everybody knows he's a great rapper, and like, oh, you pair him against like Freddie Gibbs, because Freddie Gibbs is also a great rapper in the same ilk. But like, Pusha T also, like, commercially has a lot of joints that he was on through that Good Music run.
I got hits with your favorite artists,
dude. Like, wow, yeah, his concert was really, really, like, he could put together a monster set. That is really. I'm glad he brought that.
And his approach to it was just like, just in case you didn't understand how fucking good I am, here's the case. I ain't gonna do no extra. I'm not hyping it up, any of that. Just here's the music, and I'm gonna body it. And it was fucking amazing. And then when he finally ended it, bowed out, curtains dropped. Now, what do you think about that? It was great, bro. It was great.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That makes me even more happy. I have It's Almost Dry where I have it, and I have a Pusha T verse in my verse of the year. Let's jump to that. Let's do
great year by him.
Yeah, let's do top 10 albums of the year. This is something we'll get to top 5 rappers after, and there will be a little bit of a distinction there. But this is the thing that everybody wants. Everybody wants a list of the albums. Everybody wants to break down every single album. And I made like several lists. Like I said, I was going nuts with this because I wanted to get it right. So I did a top 10 rap albums list. I did I actually numbered it all the way to like 57 or something like that. And then I was like, okay, the rest of these that I listened to don't really matter as far as where I have them on the list, because they'll change like 70 spots in the matter of 2 days. Because listen to 100 plus projects is a lot, but I broke it into that. Then I broke it into my non-rap albums, and then I broke it into my EPs. Where also, I'm glad you mentioned Sci-Hi, because that EGOT EP was very high on my EP list of the year. EP / deluxes too. I threw those in there. But top 10 rap albums of the year, Spike. Kick it off for me. What do you got?
Top 10 rap albums of the year. How many you want me to read into? And please forgive me. That's why I've been looking down for the people that are looking. Okay.
We'll go 5-5. And if you have any honorable mentions, you can start there.
Okay. I've been getting my last 5 together because my mistake in thinking it was just 5, it was 10. So one, it's going to be a different list from the on deck list because hey, things change on a day-to-day basis.
Like we
And
said.
two, the last part of this, yeah, I'm still getting together because I only did 5 at first, but I'm pretty secure in the ones that I have, and they will be similar. I know the top 5 especially, but 10 for me is Nas The King's Disease 3. Really enjoyed the album. It didn't make my list on deck, but I've gone back and listened to it. I really enjoy, I talk about this all the time. I appreciate being the age that I am, that we have a contemporary hip hop facet now. When you're talking Jay, you're talking even Ross, Jeezy, the projects now that cater to older people. Nas has really taken that and gone running full speed ahead. He's damn near giving us more work within these last 2 to 3 years than he has over a 10-year stretch when he just wasn't really motivated. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that he met Hit Boy and that they've been able to put these King Disease projects out. So King's Disease 3 was 10 for me. The next one wasn't on my on deck list either, but someone reminded me when I was reading the other list and I remembered how much that I enjoyed this project, and that was that Little Durk 7220. I'm not a big Durk fan. I appreciate the rise that he's had this year. Not my bag per se. Spinning the ops and the
Yeah.
switches and extendos or
Young shit.
whatnot, but I did appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate how personal he was on this album. Didn't
Yeah.
expect it. I really enjoyed this album. I think that Durk has taken a huge leap from where he started to where he is now and being the next or one of the next superstars in hip hop. Next for me, Larry June, Spaceships on the Blade. Larry June is slowly creeping into my favorite artist category. He's definitely in the top 5 for me. I appreciate every project that he comes with. I like the healthy lifestyle that he promotes. His merch game is fire with the healthy life living stuff. I like the Zen mode that he's in. Never hear about spinning the block or ops or switches or anything of that in his music. It's just smoking good weed, good weather, and smoothies. I enjoy that. I'm here for that. The next one, and you'll have to help me with this because I didn't have it pulled up. So it's the Boldy James project.
Oh yes.
What is the name of it?
The one with Nicholas Craven.
That's it. Nicholas Craven and Boldy James, Fair
Yeah.
Exchange, No Robbery. I had to pull it up there.
Yep. Fair exchange.
Boldy's
Yep.
another one of those guys for me. Yep, that's another one of those guys for me. He makes my list as one of my favorite artists. I appreciate everything that he comes out with. Going back to The Price of Tea in China is when I first discovered
Boldy's
him and
incredible.
was put on to him. Oh, I love him, man. He leads the pack for me. I'm a really big fan of Detroit music. You know this. I've always hitting your messages about the Detroit scene. A lot of that stuff is in my favorites for the year. But definitely that Boldy James Fair Exchange project. And another one that's grown on me, and I had to throw it in there because I just really enjoyed it. I like just the material overall. It seems like these guys had a great freaking time doing this album, and that was Drake and 21 Savage. Her Loss, that's the name of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was great, man. I
Oh, yeah.
appreciated the biggest artist in the game going in and being able to have fun. You could tell that he enjoyed this with 21 Savage. He
Yeah.
enjoyed just everything that came with it. The promo run, it was cool. It's cool to see the guy that's at the head of the game still doing stuff that he can enjoy. The other disco dance album wasn't for me. I get it. It's a money play. Cool.
Yeah.
However, being able to bounce back from the criticism of that and still being able to do something that wasn't so serious, it didn't have to be the Blueprint or Illmatic. It didn't have to be anything like that. It's just another dope project that I done with the rapper that I enjoy doing music with. Here, I'm the top dog in the game, like it or not. I like that. I like that attitude. I like that Drake can, excuse me, put his dick on the table, for lack of a better words, and say, hey, you guys don't have to enjoy what I do. You don't have to think it's a good idea. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to cash big checks every time I do it. There's something good about that for me.
Yeah, there's
those are my
top
bottom 5.
Yeah. And I respect that a lot. I'm glad you mentioned a lot of the names you mentioned, especially Boldy James. Boldy James is honestly so incredible. I mean, I actually, my boys that work at Imperial Media and they run Imperial Media, they actually got to meet Boldy and talk with them and whatever when they were shooting his concert when he came here a couple months ago, and
Nice.
they're just like, dude, he's just one of those guys, like flat out. He's just one of those
Yeah,
guys,
man.
cool, calm, always collected, but when it's time to work, he's gonna approach. There's a lot of rappers that I think do not want smoke with Boldy James as far in his pen. Like what he can do is incredible. So I'm glad you brought him up because that was a project that I really liked, but didn't end up cracking my top 10 ultimately. Um, I'm glad you mentioned
Here's
her
why I
loss
get to
too.
hear about new music,
Yeah,
because you listen to a lot more than I do. You have a lot more. You love it, Wade. You love the game. You're like Mitch
I
and
mean,
Paid in Full, man. You love the game. So I can pick up on new albums and projects from your list. I know that. Some stuff that I may have missed.
I appreciate that, but let me shoot you some bail and just be like, it's also because I'm young. Like I know looking forward my love of music comes from my dad, 100%. My mom doesn't listen to any music really. The only thing she listens to is
Yeah.
Michael McDonald cover Marvin Gaye, which is a
Hey.
crime in and of itself. I love
Oh
Michael
my
McDonald.
God. What?
I love Michael McDonald. Don't get me wrong, but I you just there's some goats you
Yeah, you
just don't
can't call
touch.
Marvin Gaye
There's
though.
some goats you don't
Yeah, you just
touch.
gotta leave that alone.
That's my point. It's not a disrespect to Michael McDonald. It's more so just like Marvin Gaye. Don't try to be
You
like
got
that.
you got to get Mom Duke some Marvin Gaye vinyls or something.
Oh, my dad's
You got
got
to
them.
get us
My
some
dad's
Marvin
got
Gaye
them all,
vinyls.
but my mom won't touch them. My mom
She
won't. She
won't touch
don't. She
them.
don't dislike it. She likes it when it comes on,
Okay.
but she don't. She literally just doesn't listen to music. Like she's one of those people. She don't. She don't really listen to music. But when she did, I remember she used to love Michael McDonald as a kid, and she used to love. She used to love. What else did she love? She loves Earth, Wind, and Fire a lot. I mean,
Michael
and that's
McDonald has
fire.
oh, okay. That's
But
okay. Yeah, you right in it.
but she,
That's the Regulators remix, right?
yeah,
You can't forget you're not in love
yeah.
anymore. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I grew
I
up to
like that
that. I
song.
grew up to I listened to Michael McDonald sing "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" so many times to the point where
Oh
I don't
my
even
God, I
remember
don't
them.
even
I don't
want to
even
think
remember that
about
Marvin
how.
Gaye did it, and that's what I hate about it. I hate that about it because
Yeah,
it's fire. It's fire
you
that
gotta rebuke that out of your
yeah,
system.
Marvin Gaye and Tammy killed that. But off of that tangent,
Yes.
off of that tangent. Yeah, I think it's honestly just my dad. My dad being my dad's age now, he likes what he likes, and he does. To his credit, like he'll bob his head to some Kendrick or some J. Cole or whoever I throw on if he likes it. He really loves Anderson Paak, but he's like more so just I like what I like. And I think, I think that's the thing is like it's easier when you're young to be like in the game and listen to everything and listen to everything that drops because, it's just like also just time wise. Like, I don't get I got a lot of work that I do, but outside of that, man, I got a lot of time when I'm not working and it's dedicated to music. So I'm able to just run through a lot. And my list, man, again, I was crazy with this, so I'll just give a few honorable mentions that I really liked. Uh, no Thank You by Lil Sims. She snuck this out on me at the end of the year. Another UK artist that I'm really a big fan of. Her last project was in my top 10 last year. It was Sometimes I Might Be Introvert. I think Introvert, the intro to that is the best rap song. It's the best rap song of last year. Might be the best rap song of this
What's the
decade
name
so
of it?
far. It's called Introvert.
Whoa,
And
Introvert.
it
And it's
is incredible. It is
by Lil
incredible.
Sims.
So she and also Kendrick shouted her out and stuff. She is in a lot of ways like a UK Kendrick, and I don't like to box her in because she's awesome. She's awesome. Like her intro to this album, man. She just starts albums well. She starts rapping and shouting out Jay-Z and all this. She compares herself to Jay-Z. I mean, she's a for real spitter. So that album was great.
Really?
Yeah. That album was
Before you
great.
move on, though, I'm going to tell you the amazing thing about this culture and how it's grown, and just one, I think that we live in a simulation because I didn't even know that this girl even rapped until I was randomly just looking up like her Wikipedia or something, because she
Yeah.
plays in Top Boy, right?
That's so funny because
Is it
I
Top
did the
Boy?
exact opposite.
Bro,
Last week, I found out she's an actress.
I, that and that's what's so crazy about it. The exact same day that I found out that she was a rapper named Little Sim, you randomly, I hadn't talked to you in 2 weeks or even longer than that. You randomly hit me up and you're like, hey, check out this Little Sim. And I look it up and it's the same girl. I'm like, no freaking way. Telling you, we live in a simulation. Like
Hey,
it was so random because the exact same day that I found out that she was a rapper, you sent me that text, and it's just like out of nowhere. So,
that's wild,
and
man.
again, all of that stuff that you said, like the Jay-Z mentioned, the female Kendrick of the UK, I only thought that she was some random girl from the UK that played a girlfriend of the main character in Top Boy, one of my favorite series on Netflix. I had no idea, and I still haven't listened to her rap. It's been on my to-do list ever since that happened, but it's so that kind of blew my mind. Like I was
All
like,
right.
how the hell did it's
I'm gonna
what
send you
happened?
like
But go ahead,
I'm gonna send you like 2 or 3 songs, and then and you could start there, and
please.
then
I'm
from
gonna
there
listen
you
to
could
that introvert
yeah, that introvert's gonna be the
tonight.
top one I send you. Absolutely, that the way that song is incredible. But so her album, No Thank You, Lil Sims, she snuck that out at the end of the year, was awesome. Uh, then I got Drip Season Forever by Gunna. Love that album. Gunna is one of those artists that commercially you expect different things from different artists, right? And so Gunna, I'm expecting some slaps. I'm expecting when I host my gatherings that I often do, I'm expecting to be able to play quite a bit of your album and everybody in the function vibe and have a good time. And that's what that album did consistently throughout the year. I mean, that was literally released in one of the first weeks of January. Outsold the weekend, which was the craziest thing to me that he outsold the weekend. But man, he delivered. There were so many bangers on that album, and when I was going through my top 100 of the year, I was like, wow, this song, this song, this song. Like he was one of those artists that when I had to narrow down my 100 favorite songs of the year, he had quite a bit, and he stacked up with some of the highest albums of the year. So he had a lot of, but ultimately with those kind of albums, you do ultimately have filler because you can't have 18 to 20 commercial songs and all of them be entertaining, and you will listen to all of them front to back. Like you just can't do that. You listen to it, you grab your favorites, you move on. But he had a lot of favorites for me. Then 13, I had Sold Soul Separately, Freddie Gibbs. This album was incredible. The thing I geek out most about this album, Spike, is the sequencing, right? Like the way those beats just tied into the next, like Lobster, the one with Rick Ross, Lobster was fantastic. The way it led into the next song, like everything about that album just sequenced and flowed smoothly. He had the theme. I don't want to spend too much time on these, but I could go for days because I really do love all of these albums. Then number 12, I had honorable mention to Welcome to Loveland, Nick Grant. Love that album. Dude, it's just player rap over funkadelic beats, and that's 100% my bag. It's like a offspring of To Pimp a Butterfly in that sense of the production, but like it's ultimately just about lyricism and about just being a player and all three factors that I really love and enjoy. So shout out to Nick Grant for that project. And then number 11, the guy we were talking about with at the beginning off mic, I believe that was, and that is X Files, Chris Patrick. Chris Patrick put out a phenomenal album that was very well balanced, and one that I thought was just absolutely incredible front to back. Had the hits, had the rapping ability, the storytelling, all of that, and then conceptually the intro and the outro, the way they tie in together, really well done. So my 10, Melt My Eyes, Denzel Curry. Again, just one of the best rap performances I think all year. Dude was awesome. The beats were eclectic. Everything was just high level when it came to that album, and there was nothing that I can just pick out as dislike. There's only likes when I listen to that album. Number 9, I had Herbert Ab-Soul. Again, loved this album. It was very long, but I never felt sick of it. And that was the one thing I kept going back to when I kept listening to this album is 18 songs from a lyrical rapper. You're trying my patience, Absol. But he stepped away from the rapidy rap, and he always is gonna rap at a high level. But this was focused on making songs, and I just saw today that it actually did not chart in its first week, which was disappointing because Absol is even before this has always charted. So I was very disappointed that he didn't chart because I think this is his best body of work. Quite simply put, he substituted rapidy rap and all the theories and conspiracy stuff that he was getting into on Do What Thou Wilt, which is a project I personally like, but I also don't like that I'm bashed over the head with 97 crazy conspiracies. And then this one, it's more personal. He gets into everything that he's been through and who he is as a person, and it's an essential album to him. And I felt that way, and the production was good. The beats were wonky, but they were interesting, and I enjoyed them a lot. Number 8, got my guy, and I think you're expecting this to be higher, but number 8, I got my guy Westside Boogie, More Black Superheroes. Westside
honorable
Boogie's
mention
my
for me,
guy.
most definitely.
I love that album, man. Listen, all the toxic, all the heartbreak stuff, I'm all for it. Nobody does it better than Westside Boogie. Nobody has those better rhymes that just hit home when it comes to a girl. Number 7, I have King's Disease 3 by Nas. Excellent album. Masterful album. There's just nothing to complain about. The dude is just front to back, absolutely rapping his ass off. The beats are awesome. Him and Hit Boy, again, just like what you said earlier, we got to just thank this pairing, thank the simulation, thank the hip hop gods, whoever you want to thank for just throwing Hit Boy and Nas together and then being like, let's do 4 projects. No, let's maybe do even more than that. It's just incredible, and I thought this was again how we talked about with J. Cole with that moment on the feature of This Is My Legacy. This was a legacy album from Nas, and that is saying something considering the legacy that he already has. This is the album where he's like, no, he had the record like First Time, which I thought was awesome, where, he's just like, hey, I'm good. This might be your first time hearing me. Let me show you how dope I am. Let me tie this into 2009 when I heard Kendrick for the first time. Remember this generation? I'm speaking to the youth now. Your GOAT. Yeah, I remember being wowed by him too. And now you're going to be wowed by me. And I'm going to have 60-year-old fans. I'm going to have 18-year-old fans. That's how he ends it. And I just thought that was an incredible hip-hop moment, a legacy moment from a legacy act. And then you have, again, just great songs like Recession Proof, where he's just rapping his ass off. Ghetto Reporter, the intro is awesome. And to have no features and just carry it the way he did was absolutely incredible. I can't say enough about it. Then my last one before we take a break and I toss it to you for your top 5. Number 6, I got I Never Liked You, Future. Just again,
wow.
everything I said about Gunna's album just souped up on steroids, man. This is commercial. This is almost peak commercial rap. Like, this is just from the intro. 712 was just an absolute banger. To you got the songs with Kanye that was fire. You got the song with Drake is one of my top 5 songs of the year, and Wait For You. I just thought that's a massively done song. And then you got everything. Puffin' on Zooties, like everything. You got all types of Future that you wanted on this album. And this was just a Future felt like he was operating at a higher frequency, a higher energy. Like this felt like not just an album. Like he had some albums before this where I was like, okay, I'll always like it because I love Future, but this just feels like 12 songs or 14 songs or whatever. This felt like, this is an album of work, and this is going to be high in my Future discography ranking. I think this album is incredible.
I didn't expect Future on your list. But I always forget your generation how much respect you guys show.
We love Future, man.
And I love Future. I always forget that. When I'm talking to people that are younger than me, you guys freaking love him. And I don't knock it. It's just not for me. Like, he's the best person at doing what he does. I just don't enjoy what he does.
That's fair.
He's the best person that does.
That's fair. We all got We all got those.
Yeah, that's a solid list, man. All right, so we're doing my top 5 now.
Yep. Go ahead and do your top 5.
All right. So number 5 for me was probably the album that surprised me the most this year, and the one that I can say probably, even though it's not number 1 for me, I enjoyed it the most. I enjoyed the freshness of it. I enjoyed the different take. I don't listen to a lot of themed albums, and I'm not even sure how I came across this other than my love for Detroit music. But it was T Grizzly's Chapters from the Trenches. And I'm not sure if you've even tapped into this, but the whole is like 9 tracks and every one is a story. Like some of them are 2 tracks, like 2 parts of a story, but each one of them reminds me of the little boy Fresh from Joel Santana. There's stories like that, like just things that happen every day around the way. Uh, and it was great. It was a fresh take. It was like when the dunk contest when Blake Griffin jumped over the car. We've seen every dunk, and it started to get stale and boring. And they roll a Kia out here. He's going to jump over a Kia. Yeah, that's great. It was gimmicky because each one of them was stories, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it also came with visuals for each one of the songs. I haven't checked the visuals out yet, man, but I really enjoyed T Grizzly just taking another approach. He didn't have a radio single. He didn't have a song for the hood. He didn't have a club banger. It just says, hey, I'm going to be Alfred Hitchcock of the ghetto, and I'm going to tell you these stories, and you're going to enjoy them. I loved it. It was a great take for me. Probably enjoyed that album the most out of the year and was most surprised by it. Okay. Next for me, another one that's probably going to be really high. I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed his last album, even though separating the person from the music, because the personality I 100% do not enjoy, and that's The Game. I loved Drillmatic. That was a banging album. Even like I said, his last album, I really enjoyed that one. But I didn't expect to like this Drillmatic at all. It kept getting delayed. I thought it was going to be just a lazy take on Nas's Illmatic album. But he continues to surprise me, man. This dude just puts out good music. He picks good beats. He raps well. He keeps you entertained. He got bars. He got songs about his son. He got like everything that you're looking for. He always gives it to you, man. He's a consummate rapper. So that Game Drillmatic was really high for me.
That is crazy to me, man.
Go ahead.
That is crazy.
Really?
That is great. That is you don't understand the level of validation that I feel right now, because I know that I have to like throw how good I think Game is like in your face constantly, because I feel like you just don't give him enough credit. But that's awesome. That's awesome, man. And
I do not.
I'll shock you.
It's having to separate the music.
It's not on my list.
Yeah. Really?
It's not in my top 5. So the fact that you have a Game album in your top 5 and I don't is very.
I really enjoyed this Game album, man.
2022 is a wild.
It's like I almost hate listening. Like it's this next song can't be good, and then it's good.
Heart vs. Mind is crazy.
So,
I thought about that for verse of the year too.
Man.
I thought about that for verse of the year.
I got to double back and remember, but I know there's a verse on there that I absolutely love that made my top 10. I can't wait for you to share your verse of the year 25 songs, because I want to hear those 100%. All right, my last 3 are like, I don't think that anybody that listens to or does the list could have a list without at least one of these in the top 3. You'd be hard pressed to get me to be convinced that you don't have all 3 of these. Kendrick Lamar, Big Morale and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, Vince Staples, Ramona Park, Broke My Heart, Pusha T, Almost Dry. My favorite 3 albums by far of the year, from a lyrical standpoint, from just what the project was all about, them hitting it home, keeping to the theme throughout it, high level rapping, just all of it that I was looking for, that I appreciate as a hip hop fan. I really got it from all of these albums in separate ways. Kendrick, he talked about mental health, and he really took that to the next level, coming from a high ticket rapper. You don't really hear that, like, I'm thinking about mental health and I'm going to therapy and this is what my wife thinks and I'm dealing with depression and alcoholism and I'm addicted to sex. Throwing that in an album and just it being amazing still. and
Yeah.
not feeling like you were being preached to. Shout out to that album, man. I really loved it. I appreciate it at this point in life that I am. Vince Staples, Ramona Park broke my heart, said this on the On Deck TV podcast. I love Vince Staples, man. That's one of the people that I don't have to separate the personality from the
Yeah.
rapper, because the personality I enjoy even more than the rapper. The
Dude.
last two albums, the Vince album and this one,
Yeah.
out of the
Incredible.
freaking park. Oh my God, bro. This reminded me of growing up. This album was so nostalgic to me. I'm not from the West Coast. I'm from down south, but it just reminded me of how me and my friends used to do, go to parties, go out, how we would talk to each other, the things that would come up just in us being out and enjoying life at a young age. That's what this album says to me. It was great. The title, the album, all of it, amazing. Yeah. Last, number one for me, like I said, Pusha T, Almost Dry. The concert heavily influenced the decision here. Ultimate, consummate professional throughout the year as far as a hip-hop artist. If you're looking in the dictionary, you're writing it, you're not adding in any extra BS about voting for Donald Trump and clothes, and he doesn't care about anything but completely obliterating you on a track. I feel like that you could put anyone in his face and he's not going to back down. Every track said that. Every song that he did at this concert said that. The way that he carries himself, the quotes. Pusha T is just one of those guys where it never turns off. We talk about this sometimes, Animal Brown and I, with Rick Ross. He's like he's always in character. Except for Pusha T, it just doesn't feel like a character. It's just like, I am here. God made me to be a rapper that will bite any other rapper's head off. Please test me or try me. And that's how he carries himself. He really came out and done it in 2022, and I loved it, and I appreciate his album. It's Almost Dry the most.
Yeah, man, I got a lot to say on a lot of those albums, because those albums are in our top 5. I actually believe that three of the top 4 is in 3 of my top 4 is in your top 3. So we align very much well. And number 5 was also on your list, and I got Her Loss, Drake and 21. Everything you said, again, the balance of it, like I said with Future, this is the same thing. This is just peak commercial greatness. You know, the way that they approached the album was phenomenal. The way Drake is like, I will take the lead, you follow, because 21 has always been a great feature artist, and he has great individual songs. I'm not saying that he can't carry a song himself, but he is at his best when the stage is set for him to kill. That is what he does, and he is one of those artists. 2 Chainz is another one that's just absolutely, you give him the spotlight and it's game over. And 21 is great at that, and he did that very well in this album. And Drake being Drake and taking the lead, again, just being the songwriter that he is. I know there's always going to be reference to the ghostwriting and all of that, but ultimately at the end of the day, this dude does have one of the best pens in hip hop history, because he's made so many songs that chart. It's ridiculous when you look at his RIA certifications. It's just it's laughable when you compare it to anybody else. When you look at Drake's page, like an artist like Big Sean has like 4, 5, 6, 7 pages, and you're like, damn, okay, Big Sean. Drake has like 92 pages. Damn near every song he drops is almost gold, if not platinum. It's incredible what this guy does commercially. And so you give him a great feature artist like 21, who he has great chemistry with, and they built and tailored the album the right way. They leaned into the trap sound, but they also were able to use that massive Drake budget and bring in all these crazy samples. The sample and Spin About You is just perfect. This whole album is just masterfully done. Never gets boring, never gets dull. Love that Drake gave 21 Savage the timestamp record, because everybody loves the Drake timestamp records, but the fact that he put it to 21, I thought was masterfully done as well. So everything about this album, just great. I thought it flowed nice, and again, like you said, the interviews and the clear chemistry that they have is just bar none, because Drake don't do rollouts with anybody. I mean, Drake don't even really sometimes do rollouts himself. His rollouts are just, I'm here, I'm coming. But for him to do the
Boom.
parody of all the traditional rapper rollouts and do it with 21 was just, it was, you could tell, man, they like you said, they had a lot of fun making this album. So I think it's an
Definitely.
awesome album. And again, whenever I have any type of gathering, I mean, easily you're playing 4 or 5 joints off that, no matter what. Number 4, I got Ramona Park, Broke My Heart, for everything you outlined. Fantastic album, absolutely incredible, front to back. There's just no skips. DJ Quick, awesome song. When Sparks Fly, one of the greatest storytelling songs of the year. I thought that was just masterfully done to use the whole love song, but make the love about gun. Like that metaphor was great, and a lot of rappers do that. 8 out of 10 rappers do that corny. 1 out of 10 do it passable, and then 1 out of 10 do it great, like Vince Staples did. And I thought that's just one of the songs when I'm showing people that really understand hip hop. When I'm showing them how great Vince Staples is, I'm showing them that song. Maybe not first, but that's on the queue of songs to show because that just highlights how great he is. And then you have Magic, which again, when I'm at my functions, Magic is played every single time. I know the people that I entertain, they know that song word for word. And that's strictly off of me. They don't know who Vince Staples is, but they know that song word for word. Because the first time I heard it, I'm listening to it with my boy Josh, and I'm like, man, is that Tyga? Like Vince Staples was kind of singing like
Right.
Tyga
It
on
was
it,
one of those.
but
Because
it's
he
just
don't
so
usually give
smooth.
you one of those, and that's like a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an absolute hit. Lemonade with Ty Dolla $ign, another hit. But again, he had the great rapping songs too, like DJ Quick. The fact that he put Lil Baby on like a totally different beat than I'm used to hearing Lil Baby. Lil Baby wasn't even ready for that beat. You could tell he was like, he would rap fast and then he
Right.
kind of
It did
slow down.
surprise me.
He'd be like, whoa, 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 I gotta chill more. I gotta relax. I gotta find the beat. This is West Coast. This is it. I gotta lean back a little
Facts.
bit. So
It's funny that you say that because that's definitely jumps out on that, and I thought the same thing.
yeah. It's just a well done album, man. I mean, I could highlight every single track I love on that album. Number 3, It's Almost Dry, Pusha T. Everything you outlined. Again, I want to just add the one point that I think you'll 100% agree with is that again, you're going to push for raps. You're always going to push for raps. But it was that quote that Pharrell said that Pusha T highlighted that I thought really just emphasized everything and really led to this whole album being what it is. And that's when he made Hear Me Clearly, which is a song I love. And Pharrell said, "Don't be a mixtape rapper. Like you're too good for that." And so
Mm,
then he gives you the Call My Bluff, which I think is just like
yeah.
has one of the best melodies of the year. And if you would have told me Pusha T had one of the best melodies, most ear catching songs, I would have been like, what? I just wouldn't have believed you. But that song is so damn catchy. And then again, Open Air, off the top with Uzi and Don Toliver, like it's just he has those records, but then he has Hear Me Clearly. He has Just So You Remember. He has the Daytona type record. What's that? Daydreaming, right? I believe it's what it's called, or I forget the name of the title
Yeah.
right now, but the one with Kanye, and then just
Oh,
let let the smoker shine the coops, man. When that song comes on, every time. That is just one of the most banging beats I have ever heard in my life. When I hear that beat, I just can't help but to just bob my head and go crazy. That is one of those beats that I wish I was in the room as they were making it. That would have been just so cool to play that first loop. Like, oh my God. So everything about this album, no skips, no filler, everything to the point. Songs are not longer than they should be. They're all perfectly timed. And then to close it, dude, to close it with Malice doing what he did was incredible. And Pusha T to even like kind of almost like cater his vocals to Malice. I don't know if you caught that, but like how he kind of
yep.
like, damn, Push, you sound a lot like Malice on this one, and that was intentionally done, and I thought it was well done because Malice just absolutely smoked that verse at the end when he just goes, when he goes, I greet you with the love of God, that don't make me friends. I might whisper in his ear, bury all of them. I'm like, dude, he
Yeah.
was faith
He
moved
was going
mountains. So what are
crazy.
you up against? Dude,
Yeah.
he killed it.
He was
So
going crazy.
masterful
Yes.
song. Now this is where, again, we talked about this before.
I'm interested to hear these two. I think I know one of them.
This debate, you know two of them because we had this discussion. It was an internal debate all year. So my number 2 and number 1. My number 2 is A Forever Story, JID, and my number 1 is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick. And it is such an internal debate, Spike, that it's one of those things where I honestly don't think I'll get through life ever with a true answer on this. I really don't think so. It is that close to me because they both do things so well. JID is just an absolute top tier god level rapper when it comes to the way he can flow, the way he can tell stories, the rhyme schemes he could do, the technical aspect of it, but also not be looking at me, I'm so technical, I'm rhyming lyrical, miracle, spiritual. Like, he doesn't do that. He does rapping at just such a unique way that I've never heard. And then on this album, he also steps up with the song. Look at Siri's lost again. Siri, stay with me. Stay with me. I got you, Siri. So
she's not buying the JID.
A rapper of that quality be able to then also sing his ass off like he does on Cody Blue and on Better Days, like to do that, and then on top of all that, also just start to really play with song structure very, very well. And again, not lean into the fact that I am such a great rapper, because DiCaprio 2, all he did was show you how great I am at rapping. And that was awesome. Like, there's a lot of songs on there that I like, but you walk away from that project being like, okay, that kid can rap. That kid can rap. Even if it's not my cup of tea, I acknowledge that dude can rap. And he can sing a little bit because he showcased that a little bit too on DiCaprio 2. But this is like, no, I'm going to structure songs. Like, I'm going to add bridges, hooks. I'm going to throw James Blake randomly, insist on them, and it just works perfectly. Like, there's just everything you want from a hip hop record. Like, this is an honest to God, this is an album that, like, I draw a lot of parallels to this being Good Kid, Mad City. Like, I draw a lot of parallels to it being, not that it's ever going to have that impact of Good Kid, Mad City, or that's as good, but it is that. And that's what's funny is JID said when he made DiCaprio 2, this isn't my Good Kid, Mad City. This is the Forever Story. This is a continuation of his album, The Never Story. And it felt like this is who JID is, because I listened to The Never Story and I knew a lot about JID, but I didn't know he was one of 7. I didn't know he was one of 7 kids. I didn't know that. I learned from interviews that he was a football player, but I never understood like the whole, like, how he transitioned from football to rap and what that was. And he told you everything about him like you're supposed to do on an album. He got introspective, but he did it while rapping very well, and he did it with great beats. And there's just quite literally nothing to complain about when I listen to this album. So it was number 1 for quite a long time, and I will always go back and forth on whether it is number 1. But I ultimately landed on number 1 being Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick. And I can understand that comes off as, you know, okay, Chris loves Kendrick. Chris's favorite artist is Kendrick. Like, that makes sense. But it really was an internal debate, because ultimately I do feel like JID rapped better than Kendrick on this album. And I think that JID had better production on this album than Kendrick did. But it just goes back to my thing. Kendrick is in my generation, and I listened to a lot of the older stuff, but I wasn't around. I wasn't gonna, and I can't say I experienced it the way that the previous generations did. So I have appreciation for the way Michael Jackson makes albums, the way Prince makes albums, the way all these greats make albums. But I truly, of my generation, Kendrick is the best album maker, hands down. And this was a showcase of it. A double album to make it conceptual, to make it all tie in, the tap dancing, the tap dancing to signify who he's talking about, the bringing in this perspective and that perspective, and again, melting it all together, bringing in the therapy part of it, making it his most personal album while also talking about so many other people. Like the fact that he's able to make Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, think about that. He's able to make an album that the concept of the album is, this album is about me, but it's also about you. Like that's such a difficult and fine line to draw, and he executed it well. And again, songs like We Cry Together, songs that I'm not going to listen to on my own that often, but when you listen to it the first time, wow, this is masterful. Auntie Diaries, again, all the things that Kendrick talked about on this album, but to be a rapper that big, that signature, that staple in hip hop, and to then take that stance and tell that story, that personal story that's probably not easy to tell, but then also relate it and showcase it and stand for the LGBTQ is awesome. Like I have friends in that community, and they have quite literally cried to that song. Even and that's what's crazy is that they're not crying because that song is because they love that song that much. They're crying because it's because it's not supposed to be for them. It's supposed to be for people that aren't in the LGBTQ, that don't understand why certain things are offensive and why people feel the way they feel. That song is not meant for people that already understand and feel that. It's meant for people that don't understand that. And hip hop and just in general, a lot of people that follow Kendrick don't necessarily have that grasp or understanding. And so like when you bring in all those things that he does that make this album so special to me, and that's why again, when you look at the songs, like if you talk about efficiency, right? JID's album in terms of songs I like to listen to more, that has more efficiency than Kendrick's album. Because there are the songs that are like Auntie Diaries that are again, just songs that have so much impact the first time you listen to it or the first few times you listen to it, but you're not often returning to those. Mother I Sober, another one, a great song. Now that is a song that I continuously listen to. I think I'm just blown away by how good it is. But I understand that most people listen to that song 1, 2, 3 times, and they fully get it and they fully understand it, and that's it, and they can appreciate it from a distance. Again, We Cry Together, appreciate from a distance after listening to it. So that's the thing that's going to be interesting to see how this Kendrick album, how I feel about it in 5 years, is because so many things he went for are like moments. He has great songs in there like Die Hard, Savior, which again is talking about just that whole God complex that Kendrick's built his career off of, and that very song tearing it down. And then Mirror, like the honesty of it. So there's just so many things of that Kendrick did on that album that made it number one over JID. But I'm not mad when anybody says I listen to the JID album and I think it's better than Kendrick's. I can't really argue it. I can just argue that Kendrick, if I'm ranking albums, this is my top 10 albums list. Kendrick makes albums. He makes them so well. The way he sequences them, the way We Cry Together leads into Purple Hearts, this beautiful song, the way N95 leads into Worldwide Steppers, and then you're like, what the hell, where did this dark turn come from? And then it comes back to the most poppy song on the album, Die Hard, but it all flows together. Like, he just does everything. And again, JID did the clever, like, he did a lot of creativity with his album too, where there's the 8 and 8, which symbolize infinity. So it's like broken up to essentially be like one half of the album and one half of the album, and it creates the infinity sign, which means forever, the forever story. Like, there's a lot of that, but Kendrick does that by literally mirroring the track list, and this song goes with this song goes with that song. Like, the dude made Damn, and it could be played backwards too. Like, he's when it comes down to making albums, he does that very well. So it's very hard to beat him, even if you just don't like the songs or as many songs as you do on another album. It's hard to beat an artist that is that creative and that locked in to the finite details of making an album.
Yes, everything you said about Kendrick. I didn't get the J idea. Like, I don't know. I'm not a
That's crazy to
big.
me, man.
Well, I do know what it is. I understand that he's definitely rapping at a high level. For me, and this is me personally, and it's probably lazy, it's just his music is too complex. Like I don't digest his
I
music
get
as
that.
music that I can just sit back and listen to. Like there's always like there's a ad lib that has bars in it, and then he comes out and he has another track over the main track, and he's rapping over that one. It's just so much going on. For me, it takes away the enjoyment. But I do understand why so many people are high on the album, why so many people like this guy a lot. He is a good rapper, he's a good artist. It just doesn't work for me. But everything you said about Kendrick and the albums, I didn't. It was interesting that you brought up Prince and Michael Jackson. I thought more Tupac. And I guess just because it's the same genre, when we're talking, when you and I have had this discussion, that run from Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, Machiavelli, that run right there, I feel like is one of the greatest in hip hop. And
Absolutely.
Kendrick is rivaling that heavily with you can start with Section 80 and go Good Kid Mad City, and you can go to Pimp a Butterfly and Damn, and now even Big Morale, excuse me, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. It's like the guy does not miss, and the albums are like head and shoulders above his contemporaries. And the only thing for me that kind of takes away from it is you have to listen to them. It feels like, oh, when I go back, I can't just pick a song from To Pimp a Butterfly. I like to start from the beginning, just
Yeah.
digest the whole thing. Same thing with Good Kid, Mad City. Same thing with Damn. It's never. It's hard for me to just go in and be like, I want to hear this song. I always find myself listening to the whole album.
Yeah. I agree, man. I agree. And that's what it
A
is.
great list.
He just makes great albums. And it's hard when I'm ranking albums to compete against a guy who literally is just shown us head and shoulders he is above everybody when it comes to making albums. So even if the music is a little different or it may not be your cup of tea, just album structure wise, you gotta consider this a very, very high level. And again, I don't think a lot of people do. I know there's a lot of people that don't return to the album, and that's totally, I understand that. But like the whole replay value, funny enough, I mean, the number one 2022 hip hop album, most streams on Spotify, is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So clearly somebody's lying about replay value when it comes to this album that has no replay value. But to the people that do, I get it. I understand it. But if you're just you can't objectively say this album is bad. It's done too well. Um, let's jump to our top 5 rappers of the year. We'll get that list going, and we'll get out of here because this is also very hard, and this is where it's going to differentiate for me because you know like for example, when you talk about before the idea of just what are your factors, and it's a lot of things. It's okay, what did you put out this year? How do I value your feature performances, right? Like if your features are great, do I think that you deserve a higher level than this person, or what? It's a lot of factors that come into it. And I don't want to be long-winded with this one because I see you yawning already. Old man
That's
ready
just
for
because I'm
bed.
old.
Yeah, old man
Yeah.
ready for bed. But there's a lot of factors that go into this, man. Is like okay, your body of work plus what you did with other people this year, and just how it all stacks up. So, for me, I'll just give my honorable mentions, and then you can get into your top 5. My honorable mentions, I've said enough about them, so I don't really need to say more. Um, Lil Baby, I didn't talk about him much this podcast, but Lil Baby has been, he's just a great rapper. He raps his ass off on a lot of beats. I really enjoy that. And there's nothing really to complain about. It's just more so a nod to the people that are ahead of him. Also, Lil Sims, again, same thing. Lil Sims is incredible. J. Cole is an honorable mention, which surprised me because although he didn't drop an album this year like he did last year, with the offseason. This year, he still just had another incredible run of features. We talked about Johnny P's Caddy. We talked about London. There's also Scared Money off the YG album that I really enjoyed his feature there. The features he had on the Dreamville project, like Stick and Freedom of Speech interlude, like he's just a great rapper. So whenever he shows up to rap, you know, he is one of the greatest rap feature artists of all time, and we need to respect that and treat him as such, because we need to start having conversations. Because at the end of the day, who can you throw on a beat with J. Cole and say with 100% certainty they're beating J. Cole? That they are. That list is very small. Like, that list is just minuscule at best. J. Cole is out rapping most rappers in the game right now of all time. He's one of the greatest. So I was surprised that he didn't make it, but he just missed my cut. And then the last honorable mention I had was Black Thought. Again, the only person who shot out my boy Josh, him and I argue this all the time. I think Black Thought is the only person that I could say with 100% certainty would out rap J. Cole. I think that is the only rapper in existence right now that 100% I could say
certainty.
With 100% certainty that he would beat J. Cole if they got on the same track. That is the only answer.
I don't know if I'd say. I couldn't say with 100% certainty, but he's definitely one who I would be interested in how to see that played out without knowing that
they got to do it, man. They got to, especially because Black Thought's active now, man. Like, that's got to happen.
He had a mixtape this past year, right?
Yeah, he dropped this year. He dropped with Danger Mouse. So it was a good project. But yeah, that's my honorable.
I got a very mainstream list here. We've talked about most everyone on my list already, so it won't be a lot to say. Biggest surprise, I would say, people who listen to the On Deck TV show, they probably can tell this one is coming. I didn't have him for Person of the Year, but I had him ranked pretty high. It's Kodak Black, man. We talked about Kendrick Lamar's album, and I would, if you had told me Kendrick Lamar is going to take nearly 5 years off, and when he does come back, he's going to have an album that's heavily featured Kodak Black, I would say pass. No, I don't know. And that's no knock to Kodak Black as an artist, but I couldn't see the correlation, and I wouldn't.
100%.
I wouldn't want to hear that. I would be like, no, I've waited too long for Kendrick to come back. Please, no, God, don't do that to me. However, he so made it work. Like, it's perfect. I wouldn't have picked anyone else to do those interludes, to hold that album up. It kind of speaks to, as well, I won't say a passing of the torch, because Kodak Black is definitely not the next Kendrick Lamar, but there is this mesh of different generations that I think that it did. There's this mesh of where you have this conscious guy who is from a good kid, Mad City, but he's not necessarily participating in that lifestyle. And then you have this guy from Florida who is about 100% of any crazy dramatized life 100%. That you would want to imagine that a rapper would live. Like, this is the guy. So to have him and Kendrick, like, just merging their styles together on the album, and he didn't overdo it. Like, I think that the talking was great. Not to mention the song that he has with Justin Combs, not to mention Super Gremlin. Like, I just think that Kodak Black, man, even though he runs into these legal troubles, he runs into putting his foot into his mouth a lot, but he's talented, man. And I just appreciate what he's done this year. J. Cole said it a while ago. It's just, I really look forward to and appreciate Kodak Black as an artist.
Yeah,
so
man.
That was my number 5.
I'm glad you brought that up. I just quickly want to mention my diatribe of how Kendrick's so great at making albums. I can't believe I didn't mention the Kodak part of it. The incorporation of Kodak was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And if anyone, like I said, if anyone had told you that, if he had told you, if he had called you and said, "Hey, Chris, I'm thinking about this. I know you're a big fan. I'm thinking about adding," you would have been like, "No, please, God."
I would have cried. I would have been on the phone, and I would have honestly broke down in tears. I would have been like, my favorite artist, he he dropped, he flopped, man. It's over, man. He's not supposed to. He's like the greatest album artist ever. Why is he flop? Like, I would have been just beside myself, man.
Yep.
Tears.
Instead, you got fucking Kodak Black doing spoken word on Kendrick's album.
And killing
like, this
it.
is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed this.
And out rapping Kendrick on that feature too.
Yeah.
I'd say
Exactly.
so.
Done his thing. It was perfect for him. And shout out to Kendrick, like you said, stepping back and letting Kodak be the star on a feature.
Yeah.
Like, I got this whole album to completely show my ass and let you remind you of how great a rapper I am. So I'm going to take a slight step back here because this is his style. This is his bag. My album needs this. Go ahead, do your thing. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Last four, Kendrick Lamar also on this list. Took that big hiatus, came back with, like we were talking about, you said especially, man, this guy is the album maker of this generation. We can talk about who's the best. We can talk about who has better hits, better bars, or whatever it may be. But when you're talking about the person who makes the best albums post Jay-Z's generation, the J. Cole, the Drake, the Kendrick Lamar era, no one is better than this guy making albums, man. He just shows it with the big Mr. Morale, Big Steppers, a lot of the stuff that you said, I don't have to repeat. But when we're talking about making albums and top 5 people of the year for me, Kendrick Lamar, 100% reminding people of who he was, even with the start of the rollout and how he did the whole video, what is it?
Part 5.
We're switching the faces.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And the
Incredible,
last verse
dude.
was about Nipsey. Just like that, not even on the album, but just reminding you and getting you ready for that.
That was an honorable mention verse
too.
That last verse when he dedicated it to Nipsey. Man, that was
the Nipsey. Oh my God. Absolutely. For me too. Next one. These two kind of go hand in hand. 21 Savage and Drake. 21 Savage for me, like you said, I can be Scottie Pippen and be great. I don't have to be in the lead. I don't have to be Michael Jordan. It doesn't have to be 21-21 everywhere. I ain't got to talk about killing people and spinning ops. I can show that I have feelings, just rap about girls and do the funny memes of Drake, can you do something? Or 21, can you do something for me? And play into it. And like it was great to see him take that next step, getting the Drake quote unquote stimulus package and watching it go to work for someone who was already an established artist, but took a next level step due to having a project with Drake. I really enjoyed it because I'm a 21 Savage fan. I think he handles himself really well when you see him doing the promo. I was excited to see him take that leap this year. I thought it was great. On the other side of that, Drake, as far as I'm not going to do what everyone thinks I should do. I'm not going to try to give you a blueprint. I'm not going to try to give you an Illmatic or this classic rap bars album. I'm going to make the best business decisions for me, and you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm going to continue to be the biggest brand of this generation. And fuck it. Who's going to tell me not to? I'm going to do a dance hall record. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a record with one of my favorite rappers, and we're going to have fun. I'm not going to try to impress these people who can't be impressed, who write these blogs or do these podcasts and say I don't have a classic album. I'm going to keep doing what Drake does, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I like to see him do it. The dance album wasn't for me, didn't enjoy it, haven't even doubled back to it. I took so much joy in listening, just skipping each song. I smiled. I was like, yes, just so I could just give the Drake fans hell. And I got to the end of it, I was just knew that I would never listen to that album again. But to see him bounce back from that with the 21 Savage, it just, again, not even faze him. Not even, though we didn't see it if it did, but just completely carefree in this album. I loved it. Yeah. Last but not least, I won't have to go long on this one because we've talked about it throughout the whole show. Pusha T.
Yep.
Great album, Grammy nominated. The concert was amazing. He is the consummate professional. To me, he exemplifies what a rapper would be for that generation. He, from beginning to end, from the start with the clips, from the stuff that we've seen this year, him being the head of Good Music, renouncing that, still putting out this dope, great album, and just still always being a leader when we're talking about bars and the crispiness and the snappiness of what he does. I love it. Thought he had a wonderful year. A lot of that was influenced by the concert that I went to. But those are my 5 guys for the year.
Not mad at that list at all. I got a lot of respect for everybody on that list. There's Our lists are quite different, but we do have some
Mm,
similarities. Number 5, I had Denzel
okay.
Curry for everything I said about his album Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. I just when I hear this man, like, just listen to the ills, and that right there alone is like a case for this dude is a top 5 rapper in the game, just rap
Hmm.
artist. Um, so he just put together a masterclass on how to rap. Number 4, Kendrick. Again, with Kendrick, so great at storytelling and everything. He's not going to be the greatest punchline rapper. He's not going to be the rapper that bars you to death with braggadocio, but he's going to just be so lyrical in a way that just connects with you. The way that he can make un he can make a song about having millions of dollars and having sex with all tons of models, and he can make you feel bad for him. He can make you feel pity for him on United in Grief when he's talking about all these millions that he has, and you're just like, "Damn, poor Kendrick." And then he has Savior. Everybody looks at me like a god, and you're just like, oh, poor Kendrick, man. I feel for you. It must be hard. Everybody in the world thinking you're a savior, everybody thinking you're a hero. And I'm not trying to downplay those stuff because it is real to his mental. So I don't want to downplay
Yeah.
it, but there is that other side of the token of like he can take these things that are so unrelatable and make them super relatable. He can do what he did with Nipsey and just have tell that third verse from Nipsey's perspective and also weave in Kobe too. Like, he weaved in all those other people, but like to mainly do that Nipsey one and to do it in a respectful way because almost anybody else in hip hop would have told that story and would have not done it as well as Kendrick, and it would have been met with so much criticism. Kendrick came in and he Nipsey's a legend in our culture, and he's a hero and he's an icon. And so for Kendrick to be able to personify that and do it with unanimous praise, including by the family, by the way, which I think is the most important praise and the only praise that should really matter in that situation. But to get universal praise from everybody, I think is just special. And that just shows how great he is at rapping. But again, not doing features and all these other things held him back from being higher on my list. Number 3, Pusha T. Everything you said, again, just professional, precision, just lethal. Um, the features he did, like the feature he had on Freddie Gibbs' album, incredible. He's awesome, man. There's nothing more to say other than the fact that when you are a rapper and you're serious about your pen, there is very few people that make you stop and just rewrite, and that is Pusha T. Like I'm convinced. I'm convinced that every time Pusha T when he sends one to Freddie Gibbs, when he sends one to Rick Ross, when he sends one to whoever, and he actually said this compliment to Rick Ross about how Rick Ross is the one feature he could just give a feature to and turn his back and know it's gonna come back golden. But I feel like these other rappers, when they hear Pusha T, they have to rewrite their stuff or they have to change something or they have to do something. Like he's just that good at rapping. So he was number 3. Number 2 is Nas because Nas,
Mm,
to me, quite simply put, and I wish I would have said this when I was highlighting Nas at number 7, but simply put, it is the best rap album this year. Like just rap. Just factoring in just rap. That is the best rap album this year. Nobody is rapping better for a whole entire project than Nas on that album. So for me, Nas was just absolutely incredible. And the reason he's not number 1 is because he didn't do more features. Like that is the one thing that held him back from me being number 1. But number 2 is just again, I can't speak highly enough of how great he rapped on KD3. But number 1 is JID. And that is because JID rapped almost as good as Nas on his album in the Forever Story, and then also did features with my guy Mike Dimes. Don't lean back, Spike. Don't lean back. Come on, engage with me. Work with me here. Listen,
I
this
was
guy,
expecting a JID. No,
this guy JID, man, he rapped phenomenal on his entire album. And then you go on features like the Mike Dimes feature, which I thought was absolutely incredible. I don't know if you heard that, but Mike Dimes dropped his album, and he had this record, Home, which is a record that I love. And JID just did a remix to it, and he snapped on it, talking about coming for the throne and how he's young Hova and all this stuff. He was just on his shit, and you have those kind of features. You have all the stuff he did with Dreamville. Everywhere he's been popping off, he's done a lot of features this year. They've all been very high quality. And then on top of that, you are one of the best rap performances on your own album. I think he's the no-brainer number one. A lot of this list was tough, but I when I outlined everything, I was like, okay, JID is clearly number one. I didn't think JID was going to be number one. I figured he was going to be top three, but when I just look at the fact of the feature, the amount of features he's done, plus the high level rapping he had on his own album, it was an easy consensus that he was number one, and everybody else after that was a fight to see where they placed, but like especially that fifth spot was tough. Denzel Curry had to beat out a lot of people for that fifth spot, but that's my top five. So to recap, I had number one JID, number two Nas, number three Pusha T, number four Kendrick, and number five Denzel Curry. So
I gotta check that Denzel out. You and Animal Brown were both high on the Denzel Curry. A
did
couple of
you
guys
not
from
listen
Dead
to it,
End
or
as
you
well. So
just
I'm gonna
skimmed
check
through it
it out.
once?
I didn't get to listen to it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't even
run
get to
through it.
listen to it at all. So I'll check it out.
Run through it. Again, that and Lil Sims. I'm going to be on your head about both of them.
Will Sims. Okay.
Lil Sims.
Gotta send me that one.
Lil Sims.
Oh yeah. She's definitely on deck.
Yeah,
She's
you are
definitely on
getting
deck.
old, man.
'Cause
I hear
I
it's
was so
tough.
surprised by it.
You got headphones
Yeah,
on. I don't
definitely,
even got
man.
headphones.
That's why I got the headphones on to help me out.
need to check them. Check that EQ a little bit. But
Yeah,
okay. So let's just close with this last thought, and this will be quick. But closing thought.
Okay.
2022 as a whole in rap with and we can just stick with the music, or we can include just everything that's gone on beyond it. But as far as years in rap go, I feel like this is one of the best rap years we've gotten since 2018 is the one that everybody throws out. I agree, that's top tier, but I think this is one of the best years we've gotten in the last like 12 plus years of rap. I think it's, if you're doing a draft of the years, I think this is for sure probably top three, right? Like it was an awesome year. You got everything you wanted.
It was up there. I definitely agree with that. I spoke to this when we were doing our end of the year list on the podcast and on deck. Yeah, this was going into it. You're thinking, especially with the year we had last year, oh man, it can't get any better. But this was actually a better year. Like you got an album from Kendrick, you got an album from Drake, two albums from Drake. Like you got the great Jay-Z verse. There was just so many good moments in hip hop this year. Like I agree with you.
Yeah. I think this rivals 2018, because 2018, the one thing that 2018 had that was so damn cool was that once a week Kanye month rollout. Like that was just cool. Regardless of the music we got from it, it was cool as hell that he had all those albums in the tuck for 5 weeks. I'm just dropping an album that I'm involved with. That was cool. Of course, the Drake Pusha T beef on top of all the good music we got that year, man. Like it's very hard to beat 2018, but 2022 is definitely a heavyweight class. You got everything. You got the commercial rap. Like her loss really signified the fact that 2022 was great, because like we got the commercial Drake. We got another commercial Drake that we didn't want. That's okay. But like we got that commercial Drake on top of, again, the Kendrick album where it's the miraculous, it's a miraculous album art. So you got all of that. You had underground rappers. You had a bunch of rappers like Pusha T and Freddie Gibbs also getting their equal due credit shine. So it was just something that you can't really complain about this year. This year had literally something for everyone, and featured a lot of the biggest artists releasing. Almost all of
that
the
was
big
one of the
released.
biggest things.
I did wish that J. Cole would drop. so that we could have had all three the same. But I understand why, because the offseason was just last year. But if the offseason was this year too, man, this would have been the best year. Hands down.
That would have been the cherry on top.
Yeah, because we never gotten the Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole all to drop in the same year. Dropping.
Hopefully we get that next year. Maybe we can get that. Maybe the cycle does itself. Kendrick is kicking off his new label. Cole has missed a year. And Drake just does it.
You have a whole therapy double album, and you're Kendrick Lamar. I'm not expecting. I don't know if this guy.
Yeah, he may not be back ever. Actually, he may not ever make another album. To be honest with you.
But all right, Spike. Yeah. I appreciate you for coming on, man. I appreciate doing these quarter wrap ups. Now year end wrap up. Again, 2022, awesome year. Why don't you tell everybody about On Deck TV podcast and everything that you do, because it's awesome. And now that I'm done with this recording, I can actually go back and run through your guys' stuff, because I've been out of the hip hop loop. I've been stuck in the sports world.
Okay.
So I need to catch back up on the hip hop, and you guys are at the top of my list of people that I'm going to check out and get caught up in. Because I gotta see Animal Brown. I gotta roast Animal Brown. I know his list. I know his list is
he
trash.
had a lot of questionable stuff. You know how he is. Yeah, he has a lot of questionable shit on there. Shout out to my guy, the On Deck TV show, like you said, every Wednesday. The Southern Perspective on hip hop. Me and Animal Brown been doing it for a long time, man. About 500 plus episodes in the queue over there. Thank you for having me and doing these and respecting my opinion and letting us come on here and hash it out with each other as well, Chris. I really respect your platform and everybody listening here. Thank you guys that come over to the On Deck TV show and listen. You spoke of sports also. Shout out to the Dead End guys and Dead End Sports, joining them full time this upcoming year. So I'm going to be very minimum basketball conversations, hopefully. But we're going to talk a lot of football. We're going to talk a lot of football playoffs that that's streaming on YouTube Tuesday night. So check that out. And my spinoff podcast from On Deck TV, it's Another Week in the Books. Check that out as well. It comes out every Friday. Me and my guy Mo, we get on there and we just kick the shit and talk about the stuff that's going on in the world at the end of the week. So again, the On Deck TV podcast, Dead End Sports, Another Week in the Books. You can find them wherever you listen to content at, man. Check me out. I am Spike Lou across all your favorite social sites. I am Spike Lou, just the way that it sounds.
All right, man. And I'm gonna have I almost knocked over my laptop. I'm gonna have those
links
in the description. I'm gonna have those links in the description. Thank you, Spike, for coming on, man. I appreciate everything. And I'll be seeing you soon. Before you know it, we'll be talking about the next quarter. We'll be talking about 2023.
Absolutely. We'll be reviewing the first half of 2023. It'll be March before you know it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, man, always thank you for having me. Appreciate you thinking about me when you do these. It's really an honor to be able to bounce my opinions off them and you sharing them with your fan base. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It goes deep. So I appreciate all of that.
Absolutely.
You have a good one, man.
Yes, sir. You too.